Now, we often don't talk of first-time buyers struggling to get on the housing ladder, but research out today suggests home ownership as a whole, is in decline.
Yeah, some of the sharpest changes are in Manchester, and Victoria is out and about for us this morning in a street which I understand, Victoria, is sort of example of some of the things that's going on in the marketplace.
Yeah, good morning to you both. Yeah, that is right. This is a report that's out today from the Resolution Foundation. It's about the percentage of falls that we've seen in recent years in home ownership. And as you say, Charlie, some of the biggest falls have been here in Greater Manchester. We've seen a fall of about 14% over 13 years. It used to be something like 72%. Now it's down to just over half, about 58%. But it's not just happening in Greater Manchester. We're seeing falls in home ownership in places like Leeds and Sheffield. And it's not just northern cities either. We've also seen it in Greater Manchester. And as you say, this is a pretty typical house for the area. It's about £149,000. It's been on about 6 weeks. Over that time, it's had about 3 viewings, some investors, some families as well. But talking to the agent here, he says that the rental yield on this would be about 7%, which is obviously very good. So people are looking perhaps to buy this and rent it out yet again. Lots of people saying perhaps this could be an affordability issue that we're seeing a fall in home ownership. I'm here with Kate Faulkner. Kate helps people get on the first-time buyers and helps them get on the ladder. Now, Kate, do you think it is an affordability issue?
I don't think it's as much as an affordability issue. I think it's more cultural change. And what we're seeing, big increase in student and migrant population, they're going to rent, they're not going to buy. We've also built a lot of properties now, say new builds. You couldn't rent a new build 20 years ago, pretty rubbish renting 20 years ago. Now you've got these fantastic new builds in city centres, yes, bought by investors often. So, and the other thing to mention, which a lot of people haven't realised, is we're still just coming out of a recession. So in Manchester, for example, the average house price was £146,000 back in 2007. It's only just recovered. So it's been very sensible for people to rent here rather than buy. And I think we'll see buying coming back. But I also think renting is, you know, a really plausible way of putting a roof over your head.
Okay, thanks, Kate. Now we've got a house full of people here. As you can see in the kitchen, we've got the agent here, we've got the owner, we've also got Tom and Polly. Come out and join us. You're live on BBC Breakfast. Okay. Now, we're hearing that affordability isn't the issue. Is that your experience?
To a certain extent, that, you know, increases have occurred and it is difficult. But the main problem for us is wages and insecure work. You know, wages have not risen. They've been pretty bad for even our friends in the most stable jobs as well. They have to reapply for their jobs every year. So we are in a situation where we can't save up the deposit easily. And what money we do save is preparing for the times when we're unemployed.
Yeah, and what about you, Polly?
Yeah, I'd say that affordability is still an issue. I think the sort of interim costs of moving house are massive, you know, deposits, that kind of thing. Sometimes you'll be asked for 2 months rent up front, then you've got to pay agency fees, that kind of thing. So you're never really building that kind of saving that you could build up if you weren't having to move so frequently and pay that interim money.
Yeah, okay. Now, we've had loads of comments come into the programme. Keep them coming by email or by Twitter. This from John Bishop, who's saying that rents are now so high, it makes it impossible to save for a deposit. But people like Susan Freeman, they're agreeing with Kate, saying that actually the increase in renting is due to changing lifestyle. So I've got myself a bit of breakfast here, a bit of coffee as well. So I'm going to keep going through all your tweets and all your emails and have a little bit more throughout the rest of the day. I'll see you soon.
Will do indeed, Victoria. Thank you. Figures out today shed new light on the difficulties for many of buying a house. There's been a drop in the number of people owning their own home.
Yes, the change has been particularly sharp in Manchester, and Victoria is in a street in Manchester for us that, Victoria, reflects some of the problems.
Hi, yes, good morning to you both. Yeah, this is a pretty average street in Greater Manchester. This house is on the market, or has been on the market until very recently, on for £149,000. That is pretty much average for the area. It's been on for about 6 weeks and it has just been sold. Lots of you have been getting in touch with us about that story, about the fall in home ownership. And we've got a house full of people here who are involved in this house sale. We've got the owner here, Terence. We've got Kate, who advises people on first-time buying, and we've also got the estate agent, James, as well. Now, Terence, can you tell me why you're selling the house in the first place?
No longer big enough for the family, basically, and son and daughter coming home from uni and need a big, and mother-in-law lives with us, so need a bigger house, but it's ideal for first-time buyer or a young family.
And you did have a sale already sort of through before Brexit, and it fell through?
Just after Brexit, yeah. One of the purchasers was a European, and he felt that he wasn't sure of his tenure in the country, so he had to pull out. But there's been lots of interest since, so it sold quite easily, really.
Okay. Now, Kate, there are lots of people getting in touch with the programme and saying that we have a real housing crisis in the UK. Would you agree with that?
I think there is a housing crisis, but I don't think it's everywhere. Something like over 50% of people who own a home own it outright. We haven't got huge repossessions going on, so the mortgage market and people who own with a mortgage are fine. And actually, most of the rental sector for students, migrant workers, etc., works very, very well. Where there is a crisis is if you are one of the 1.4 million people on a council waiting list that would have had a social home, there's very little for you. And if you're being forced into the private rented sector because you can't afford to buy, or indeed you wanted to be in a social home, that's where the crisis exists. So I think it's worse in some areas than others, and I think it's quite specific per area.
Yeah, okay. We've had lots of people get in touch with us about this. Ellie Whiten, for example, saying that lenders, she says, are too strict. Her partner and her both got decent jobs and they're not being able to get any kind of lending whatsoever. I mean, do you think that's an issue, that banks are just not lending?
Well, would you believe that actually one of the biggest fears of first-time buyers is applying for the mortgage because they think they'll get rejected? Now, often what you should do is, as a first-time buyer, I would actually recommend you go to a broker because they know all the lenders that will lend you. Always go to your own bank as well. But it's about knowing the right places to go to. One of the interesting things, of course, is we have more self-employed people than we've ever had before. And actually that market, if you were in that market, that was very difficult to get loans from in the past. But even that is improving. So majority of people that are going as first-time buyers that are going to lenders are being lent to. So if they've got a problem and they haven't been to a broker, I'd make that recommendation because they should be able to help them.
Now, we've had another tweet in from Neil Layden. He says that the buy-to-let market has really taken the bottom out of the whole housing market. I was wondering whether you agree with that, James, because a lot of the people that you deal with are buy-to-let investors.
The majority of our clients and calls coming into our office on a daily basis are from buy-to-let landlords and would-be investors of the future. What I would say to you is most of our tenants are quite happy to rent. They don't always complain that they can't buy, and there's many advantages of renting. So I would say, yes, the buy-to-let market at the moment is very, very strong, certainly in the Manchester area.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you very much, all of you. So we've seen this big fall in home ownership right across the UK, but particularly in areas like Greater Manchester, a 14% fall from its peak in 2003. And speaking to the experts here, it looks like the level of home ownership is going to continue to fall as we see changes in affordability, changes in migration, and also changes to lifestyle and a bit of an upgrade in some of the rental stock.
OK, Victoria, thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you as well for everybody getting in touch with us this morning. I know lots of you have been talking about it.